In this short video, we're going to be considering the Strategy Clock by Cliff Bowman and David Faulkner. So if we look at the purpose of the Strategy Clock, really it's aimed to try and achieve or finding ways of achieving a sustainable competitive advantage over your competitors and over the competing products and firms in a marketplace. So how do you actually do that, and what are the different ways? So what the Strategy Clock is saying is that there are basically one of two ways to do this, and one way to do this is to give greater value, and the second way to do this is to give lower prices. And the greater value is linked to greater benefits, and this kind of builds on Porter's generic strategies in terms of his cost leadership, differentiation, and then the cost focus and differentiation focus. Now, Bowman's Strategic Clock is a model that explores the option for strategic positioning and how a product should be positioned to give it the most competitive position in the marketplace. And then, as we've said, that this is based on one of two areas, either on price or perceived value. Now, if we look at the Strategy Clock going from 1 to 8, we have low price, added value, we have low price, hybrid, differentiation, focus differentiation, risky high margins, monopoly pricing, and loss of market share. And on the left hand side, on the vertical axis, we have the perceived value going from low to high, and on the horizontal axis at the bottom we have the price going again from low to high. And we're going to be exploring each of these in a little bit more detail. So if we look at number 1, which is the low price, low added value. So this is really saying this is not a very competitive position for business. The products themselves are not differentiated from other competing products in the same marketplace. Customer perceives very little value, and this strategy is really a bargain basement strategy, and the only way to maintain this strategy is to be as cheap as chips, and you only hope that your competitors cannot undercut you. So here you're being as cheap as possible. Now if we think about number 2 and we think about low price, here the second strategy is saying businesses position themselves as a low cost leader. So there is cost minimalization, the profit margins are low, but where the profit comes are the high volumes that they actually sell. But the competition in this marketplace is intense, and we can see this with the likes of Poundland. If we look at the third option, which is the hybrid, well, here we have some elements of low price and some elements of differentiation, and the aim here is to persuade customers that there is actually good value at a reasonable price with some product differentiation. And here, if added value consistently, then you have an effective positioning strategy, and here we've seen the example with IKEA. If we think about the fourth strategy in terms of the Strategy Clock, well, here we're talking about differentiation. So differentiation strategy aims to offer the highest level of perceived added value, and this example here can be seen with Starbucks coffee, and branding here plays a key role. Likewise does the product quality, so you kind of got a high quality and strong brand awareness, and loyalty is best placed to achieve the high price strategy, as we've seen for Starbucks. At number 5 we have the focused differentiation, and with the focused differentiation we can see this with Louis Vuitton, where it aims to position the product at the highest price levels, and this is where customers buy the product because of the high perceived value. So this positioning strategy is adopted by luxury brands. High targeted segmentation, there's high promotion and selective distribution, and if successful can lead to very, very, very high profit margins. So again, this number 5 is based on the highest price levels, and where the customer of a select segment within the marketing strategy in terms of segmentation, targeting, and then your positioning has the high perceived value. If we look at number 6, well, this is really like the high risk strategy, likely to fail eventually. Businesses set high prices without actually offering anything else, and in the short term it looks good until you get competition and competitors offering better positioned products with more perceived value. So in the long term it can become uncompetitive, and uncompetitive strategy, the more additional competition actually come into the marketplace. If we think about number 7, then we're saying to ourselves, well, this is really monopolistic or monopoly pricing, and there's only like one business offering the product. And if we take the example of Royal Mail, well, Royal Mail is the only company that really delivers letters and parcels, not really parcels but letters, to everyone's household door. And the monopolist doesn't need to be too concerned about the value the customer perceives in the product, because it's the only choice, so they can choose to either buy it or not to buy it. But monopolists usually are tightly regulated by the government and preventing them from just having too high prices in the marketplace. And then if we think about number 8, this really is the loss of market share. And the example that we can see here is actually with Tesco's, and it's the middle range or standard price for a product with a low perceived value, unlikely to win over many customers. So customers in the long term may have better options from competitors higher value with the same price. And we've seen over the last 10 years that Tesco's have lost over 10% of their market share. They've lost 10% of their market share to Aldi and Lidl. And with Lidl, the products are perceived to be very, very cheap in comparison to the Tesco's products. And if you think about Aldi have a slightly better reputation than Lidl in terms of a better perceived quality of products, and therefore they have a cheap price and a slightly better quality product, which is in direct competition to Tesco's, and hence the reason why Tesco's over the last 10 years have lost over 10% of their market share to these two companies alone. Now, if we look at the strategy clock, then we can see that positions 6, 7 and 8 are uncompetitive. These are the only ones where price is greater than their perceived value. So this is provided that the market is operating competitively. There will always be competitors that offer a higher perceived value, or the same price, or the same perceived value for a lower price. So really, this strategy clock kind of gives you an overview of different strategies that one could adopt, and ones which are in the middle of the road, which could lead you into problems longer term when more competitors come into the marketplace and offer a lower price or a higher perceived quality of product. So looking at your marketplace, looking at your company, what do you think you would adopt, and why would you adopt that strategy?